I'm a whiny baby. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the Adventures of Anton Rayne. Why am I a whiny baby? Because we have to go to the AN, which is like the United Nations, for some, I don't know, speech or something. The Alliance of Nations Assembly meeting. I, David Wissey, and the rest of the Swordfish delegation to the Alliance of Nations arrived in Karut. The local police escorted us to the Alliance's headquarters in downtown Constantium. Constantium, it, immediately recognizable by its gleaming dome. Nice titty towers. On entering the building, we were met by a parliamentary guide who briefed us about the procedures. After a strict security screening, the staff ushered us to the third floor. It's the UN! Like I give a shit about your procedures. We entered the massive circular assembly hall and took our designated seats. David sat next to me. All of the world's most powerful people under one gleaming dome. Is Malvaney, whatever the commie dude here? Is Dwight Creepy Cheeks Walker here? I could say one wrong word and the world would go to hell. It's the UN. It doesn't matter. No, I guess if it's the 1950s, the last time the UN probably did anything of value, other than some small aid missions, would have been Korea. I'm glad to be among them. I'm not going to say that. I'm not glad to be here. Fuck the UN or the AN, whatever you want to say. It's amazing how someone has managed to fill a room with people that absolutely loathe each other. Does that mean Lilius is here? Oh, it's truly astounding. Humanity has come far. How you feeling, Anton? Oh, being the subject of so much media attention must take a toll on you and your family. It comes with a job, oldie. Monica and I already came to terms with the risk after the inauguration ball. Oh, it's tough to be the president. How do you know? Are you the president? Maybe I can convince everyone he is the president, and I can blame the economy on him. He was the president all along, guys. I only did the cool stuff. Making harsh decisions and dealing with their consequences. Oh, I wish I could have supported you more, but time has been a cruel mistress. Old man voice. I could say your advice wasn't that good anyway. That's hilarious. David, you've actually been alright, man. You've done pretty good. What you've done so far is more than enough. Don't treat yourself so harshly. I mean, he's helped us craft some important trade deals and alliances. From a distance, we could see the President of the General Assembly, Mr. Nines, approaching his designated position. Well, the session's about to start. Let's get comfortable. It's gonna be a long day. Why are we here? Honestly, why? Why didn't we just send David? What is so important that it requires El Presidente here? Mr. Nines opened the session with a short speech and called the first speaker to the floor. It is my great pleasure to invite the Prime Minister of Lesbia to address the Assembly. Patricio Alvarez stood and walked up to the podium as the Assembly applauded.
Mr. President, it is my pleasure to return to this podium.
David leaned in and spoke in a low voice. Let's see how crazy this year's session will get. Yeah, let's see.
When I spoke here, the message I gave was of encouragement and support to this organization and the vital role it plays. Of all the challenges Eastern Macopa and the whole world has faced since then, one has grown larger and more imminent than any other. The threat of the so-called socialist states and the actions taken by their authoritarian rulers with no regard to international law.
A loud noise came from the table of Volksland. I saw Emmerich Hegel pounding his fists on the table in protest. He doesn't like it. Whatever. I'm just gonna keep watching.
Today, the need to come together as the leaders of the free world is more important than ever. The CSP, under the leadership of the United Contana, has been fueling Volksland's military-industrial complex and its expansionist aims in eastern Maricopa. The world cannot turn a blind eye to the increasing naval presence of Volksland in the Marquian Sea.
Mr. Mustapheles, take me away. Oh man, this shit's too bored for me. I'm gonna go watch some Leave It to Beaver. Man, I hope it's the one where Beef gets stuck in the giant teacup. How could you abandon me, Mr. Mustapheles? A lot of noise came from the assembly hall in response. Most of the Western Mercopian delegates were clapping, while others either shouted in protest or sat in stony silence.
Let us also not forget about the recent events that transpired in another state with socialist teachings, a state that wages war against its own innocent citizens, Wayland.
I'm just gonna keep listening.
The purge of the minorities in their country was again largely ignored by the international community. I would go as far to call it a genocide. Wayland violated our past treaties and mobilized their armed forces, deploying them close to our borders and authorizing them to partake in massacres. Lesbia was affected not only by the large wave of refugees coming in from Wayland.
Wait, I thought you didn't take any of those in. I thought we were the only ones who took in refugees.
But by the subsequent government seizure of all our companies that were active in the country. We hereby call the member states to action against Wayland and its rogue government. Thank you.
I'm not gonna react to that. Anton's busy thinking about food and clay pots that he enjoys. I do like me some of that clay pot food. I did not react to his speech. He walked back to his seat amidst enthusiastic applause from most of the Mercopian delegates. President Nines waited for the noise to calm down and invited the next speaker, the president of Wayland, Victor Smolak. Smolak stood up. As he walked past Patricio Alvarez, he brushed him aside with an exaggerated sweep of his arms. When he reached the podium, he fumbled with the microphone for a few seconds, then he smiled at Alvarez mockingly as he raised the height of it. David is probably going to be mad at me that I'm not reacting to all this shit, but I think Anton is annoyed. I had to fly all the way out here to some pissant little island country to watch a bunch of babies bicker. I can do that back home. I'm gonna stay silent. Let Smolak say whatever he wants. It's not my business. His turn to speak. Victor turned to President Nines and bowed slightly.
Mr. President.
Then he turned back to us and stared out into the hall for a few seconds. Mr. Mustapheles, save me from this boredom. Mr. Mustapheles? Mr. Mustapheles, he's abandoned me! My cow, why have you abandoned me?
Fellow delegates, it is true that the world today faces a multitude of challenges. In the midst of these challenges, the world's most powerful leaders gather here in Karut.
Then why are you here? Ha ha, burn!
And what do? They make threats, promote hate, and spread lies. Is this the alliance of nations we all want? Where is the cooperation and friendship? Where is the unity? I want to remind you of the wars that the West fought on our soil, of the foreign troops who occupied our country and seized our valuable resources. I want to remind you how they stole the oil from our sacred soil and how they did not know when to stop. The Edo soldiers left, but their interference never ceased. They financed armed rebel groups whose only purpose is to create terror inside the country.
Wait, Smolak, didn't you tell me that the Rumberg did that? I could have sworn you told me that Rumberg was doing that.
So, fellow delegates, don't you dare speak about Wayland before you acknowledge your involvement in our civil war, before you acknowledge your own dark past.
I'm gonna keep watching. I'm not saying shit.
As is well known, after the tremendous tragedy of the Wayland Civil War, Arcasia made a deal with United Contana, where they agreed upon the withdrawal of their troops along with the removal of half of our army. Not only did they weaken us, but we were left alone in facing the genocidal Brutish Freedom Front, which Edo funds together with Robenberg. I will show you some evidence of foreign interference.
He picked up a large stack of papers and waved them back and forth.
I have clear evidence of direct aid from Rumberg to the British Freedom Front. They smuggled tons of AK-47s in Wayland. They smuggled in their spies. They smuggled in mercenary commanders.
I don't know if Ado is involved in this or not. I mean, he is certainly right that, according to what we've learned, Rumberg has been doing that. I'm not going to say something and let Smolak know I'm on his side. We have an alliance now that we have to worry about. And I could be like, he's got balls, but I'm not going to admire Smolak's balls. I don't give a shit. I'm going to just keep listening. Because he could have made a better deal with us. He was willing to help us only if we helped him with genocide. Right? He's right about the Rumberg thing. I don't know if he's right about Ado. I'm not going out on a limb for a motherfucker that wanted us to commit genocide for him.
These documents will be published everywhere. Copies of these have already been sent to the investigative affairs of the Alliance of Nations. I expect this organization to do its task and investigate this properly, instead of leaving Wayland behind as they have always done. Coming back to the claims of the lesbian representative, first, there is no evidence of civilian massacres by the Wessex forces, nor so-called purges of minorities. Second, the operation was limited only to the militant BFF, not the Bloods in general.
Then why did we get so many refugees in our country?
Third, we know your government is also implicated in the funding of the BFF, and that your oil companies aided their militants during the operation. Fourth, as the state, we only took what was ours. The companies the delegate spoke of were not only aiding militants, they were brought to Wayland by force. Know that Wayland will no longer recognize the right of any other country to determine what type of weapons we are permitted to possess, or what type of policies we follow within our borders. Wayland stands stronger and more united than ever. Our people have spoken. The enemies inside our borders are crushed. Now I ask every delegate here to read our report on the connections of the West and the armed militants in Eastern Maricopa, and I ask the Alliance of Nations to do what's right.
David, I'm never going to forgive you for dragging me to this.
Wayland only wants peace. Our people want peace. They are counting on the support and understanding of all the nations in the world.
Does that include the people you tried to shoot, that they want peace?
The proclamation, free Wayland or death.
The assembly roared with a particularly loud applause coming from the seats of the Riken nations. I don't care. I'm not gonna react. Victor slowly walked back to his seat as he applauded himself. Now that's kind of funny. What a good speech I gave. Oh yes, good job me. He saluted the Riken, or Riken, whatever, delegates as he passed them. Next, President Nines invited Martin Van Horten to the podium. He walked up to the microphone with quick steps. He was frowning and clenching his fists. I could almost see his jaw trembling. I'm gonna stay silent.
Mr. President, fellow delegates of the Assembly and friends, it is an honor to be with you today. I wish we could meet under different circumstances.
I wish we didn't meet.
Once again, the CSP nations, and in particular Volksland, have shown us what they are willing to do to achieve their political aims. I must first thank the delegates from Sordland for being brave enough to support Ignolia when the whole world left us alone.
That's what we do, bro. We ride or die.
We were one of the first countries to propose proper cooperation among Eastern Maricopan nations. Yet when we were threatened by Volkslandian expansionism, nobody came to our side. Although Mr. Alvarez voiced his indirect support for us earlier in today's session, I can't keep myself from wondering where he was when our fleets were under attack by the very socialists he spoke about. So here I am, asking for the support of the fellow member states of the Alliance of Nations. Ignolia is under attack by Volksland.
A loud banging noise emerged from the table of the Volkslandian delegates. All of them were pounding their fists on the table. I'm just gonna keep watching.
Mr. President, please moderate the assembly. This is more than disrespectful.
Emmerich Hegel began shouting curses as Nines repeatedly banged his gavel for order. After a minute of back and forth shouting, the noise settled and Nines allowed Martin to continue.
As you all know, our drilling ships, oil tankers, and even fishing vessels have been disappeared in the Markian Sea, captured or sunk by Vogsland, and the Vogslandian fleet is patrolling the seas around Helgeland with complete disregard to international laws. I call on the Alliance of Nations to find a resolution to this never-ending conflict that Vogsland created. We demand the immediate withdrawal of all naval forces from our territorial waters. Malvania's terror surrounds us on all sides. I call the democratic world to action against the tyranny of Malvanianism, authoritarianism, militarism, and extremism.
The banging noise started again. Hegel stood up and approached the rostrum.
You're a spineless jack, a lackey of Arcasian imperialism.
President Nines called for silence and started hitting the gavel. Whatever. I'm gonna just keep listening.
All of your complaints against us are a direct result of your capitalist and neo-colonial systems.
President Nines, please, what is this?
President Nines smacked his gavel in vain as a shouting match broke out in the assembly. Finally, after a few minutes, the other Vogslandian delegates convinced Hegel to sit back down.
I believe I don't need to speak anymore about this subject. Everything is clear as day. Mr. Hegel's actions speak volumes about the reality of Vogsland and their corrupt ideology.
Well, Vogsland has put an embargo on us, so we have no reason to stand up for those assholes.
I hope to see this conflict resolved with the help of the Alliance of Nations soon.
Yeah, good luck, buddy. He quickly left the podium and nodded to the other Agnolian delegate. The two left the assembly hall. President Nines announced the next speaker, Emmerich Hegel, whatever, immediately took his place and spoke in a low, seething tone. David, when you die and you go to heaven or hell, you better enjoy that time before I die, because I will hunt you down throughout all eternity and make you pay for making me come to this boring meeting.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna stay silent. I ain't got no commentary.
Oh, here we go. First of all, I want to extend a welcome due to the new states from Rika that have joined this organization. After fighting for years against colonialism and imperialism, they have more than earned our membership vote. I am overjoyed to see them finally represented in this assembly.
Does Arcasia have like a Security Council veto in this UN equivalent? Because if so, none of this matters. It'd be like typical UN bickering, and then China or America or Russia's just gonna veto something.
As our numbers grow and more states are represented in this stage, we come ever closer to finding resolutions to conflicts that plague us. For hundreds of years, the dominant economies of Mercopa raised, pillaged, and exploited the continents of Rika and Xena. Sadly, Vogsland was also a part of this plunder in the years before the revolution, when it still clung to the idea of imperialism. But when our masses found their voice, the old colonial powers and their new financiers turned against them. These powers did whatever they could to hamper our revolutions, and they did not want the people to be heard. They are scared of us for showing the possibility of a better path. Of course, they don't want us to succeed. We threaten the productivity that runs on the blood and sweat of the working class.
Oh my god, could you just shut the fuck up?
And now they've started labeling us as the aggressors. Yeah, we all know it was the Arcasians who built up military bases all around Mercopa. It was Ado that was first formed to fight against Malvanialism.
Whatever, I'm just gonna keep watching.
Vogsland holds the right to protect its territorial waters and trade from threats. The delegates from Lesbia and Agnoia brought up the Falingo
Are you kidding?
But what were they doing when Ado forces patrolled the Antician Sea? They were silent. What about Helgeland? How about the Vogs being killed by the Agnolian government because they protested against an appointed governor? Agnolia and their allies in Sordland have no right to claim they're upholding liberty and democracy. Other nations have no right to intervene in the matters between Agnolia and Vogsland. Just as no country in the world has the right to determine what type of naval vessels we use, no country can force us not to defend our seas. If there's a conflict the Alliance can resolve, let's start with the Arcasian base on the Ravnos Islands. Lesbia has been housing Arcasian troops, and missiles by our border for years, and none of the member states have even talked about it. I also want the member states to look into the Arcasian bases in both Lesbia and Sordland.
I welcome that. They can come check out our badass base in Sordland. Hell yeah, everybody check it out. Fucking, we got modern planes, we got Arcasian friends, state-of-the-art. I bet we even got a Coke machine. Y'all can come see that shit, because it's badass. Your poverty asses probably wish you had some kick-ass air bases like us. And if the Alliance... I'd give real money for him to shut up.
And if the Alliance of Nations truly claims to have the people's best interests at heart, they cannot stay silent about what the Ignolian government did in Helgeland, how they took away the rights of our people. Perhaps then there can be a proper dialogue between our nations, and the Alliance of Nations can finally demonstrate that it can serve its intended purpose. But unfortunately, the Alliance of Nations remains all too willing to overlook such human rights violations. However, the Vogs...
Oh my god, you're talking as a human rights violation. If I have to vote, I'm voting against you just because you wouldn't shut up. And the embargo you put on our country.
However, the Vogslandian government is ready, as always, to fight the forces of oppression and colonial servitude on behalf of free people everywhere.
He raised his left fist. We're about to get fisted. I'm not gonna react, whatever. Most of the delegates from Xena, Rika, and Contana responded with thunderous applause. Eagle shook hands with him as he walked back to his seat. I wish I could walk up to the microphone in my turn and just fart in the mic and then leave the building. President Nines announced the next speaker, Queen Beatrice Livingston. I'm gonna kill you, David. Dear President of the Assembly, dear delegates, dear leaders of the world. What, she think this is a letter? Just as my fellow Eastern Mercobian delegates spoke about the troubles plaguing our continent, I have to bring the attention to the plight of the people of the North. Nice crown. Where'd you get it at? Queens Are Us? The Alliance of Nations, the ATO, the CSP, and even OMEC have never supported our people. Oh my god, cry me a river, bitch face. Oh my god, no, they didn't support me. They didn't show up to my party. Ugh. They've never supported me or my people, and tragic atrocities happened. Unlike many of the Western countries here, we never received financial aid when natural disasters struck our lands. Maybe if you were a douchebag to everybody, someone would help you out. That that kind of don't help you. The pain of our people was never recognized. I recognize their pain. Oh, really? Yeah, the pain of having to look at your ugly mug. Oh! Not even when they faced the threats of genocide by the hands of swordish kings. Girl, that was like 80 years ago. How about you try living in now? In light of all that, I implore the Alliance to take a closer look at the actions of our southern neighbors. Yeah, check me out, man. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyone got some jobs? I have a feeling I'm gonna be needing a job very soon. They took in traitors and gave them protection. The president himself came to power amid murder and arrest. Yet the people from his administration had the guts to blame our government for inciting violence. You did incite violence. I think my people might be naturally violent anyway, but you did give guns to people and incite violence. And they expect the world to believe their lies! Lies! Lies, I say! I could say that, Hag, that's great, but I ain't gonna say shit. I hereby invite you all to determine the initiation of a proper intergovernmental investigation into Sordland. I welcome it. Come on, you can investigate us. We're squeaky clean. You can investigate us all day long. Bring it. I got no problems. Hell, I will invite you to my house. But if we do that, maybe we should investigate Rumberg too, huh? Huh? Just saying. If the Alliance continues to shirk its given duties, you can trust in Rumberg to take matters into their own hands. Yeah, come on, attack me, bitch. Right now, mano y mano. Mano y womano mano. It is also important to point out that Rumberg will not stand idly by if more Arcasian military are transferred to Eastern Marcopa. What are you gonna do? You gonna take on Arcasia? You can get your butt kicked in. I hereby condemn both Ato and Sordland for allowing Arcasia to settle in our region. Oh! Before I finish, I also want to say, Mr. Smolak, I am looking forward to reading your report. I wonder what the so-called evidence is all about. Know that your slander does not work on us. Know that we are ready to die for freedom. The freedom of the monarchy? Know that our kingdom stands firm and strong. Like your cankles? Expect a grand awakening. Thank you. I'm not gonna react. But I would like to imagine at this point is like President Dwight Creepy Cheeks Walker or the head of the United Cantana is looking at Anton Rayne and be like, he's unflappable. Everybody else here is all worked up and can't control themselves. And Anton is just, he's thinking about food in a pot because he is so bored. I never wanted to be, man, that man's unflappable. This lady's trying to turn the entire world against him, and he sits there with icy cold veins. You know, I like that pot food. I will not react to her speech. She left the rostrum without getting much applause. President Nine spoke my name. Mr. Anton Rayne, President of Sordland, I invite you to address the assembly. David immediately started applauding. Shit! Good luck, Mr. President! Shut, God damn it, David. I don't want to talk to these numbnuts. You know, I know a reporter from here that I did an interview with. Like, maybe I could have found him and we could have gone and listened to some music and got drinks or just had some fun or something. What was the saint in this game? Dost? Du Hast. Saint Du Hast. Saint Hast. Saint Dast. I think that's what it was. Please, 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 give me the option to just fart into the microphone, walk out, and get some drinks with my new reporter friend. I walked up to the rostrum and took my place at the podium. In front of me were some of the most powerful leaders in the entire world. I looked them in the eyes. Oh, I can't fart. The representation of Sordland is pleased to address this assembly. Anybody who ascends this rostrum must appreciate what a significant gathering he is addressing. We must remain devoted to a dream of a peaceful and free world, a united world. I don't believe any of this, but whatever. I don't have a lot of choices. Our world is faced with the dangers of division, the dangers of large military alliances, especially really cool ones that we're a member of, and the nuclear arms race. I could say we need to ask if this organization is achieving its aims. It's not gonna. Our little pissant country isn't gonna fix any of this. Today we are confronted by a difficult choice. Our great achievements may either be used for the benefit or the detriment of mankind. I'm not gonna address, I could address the individual things, but fuck it, what's gonna change, right? The superpowers will probably veto any change. I will not respond to any of the comments made today. Instead, I want to talk about our responsibilities as the Alliance of Nations. Fuck it, I'm going after it. The UN is but a weak mirage of what it could be. It lacks decisive action and cowers at the first sight of challenge. This organization cannot take sides. It must always act democratically. Sadly, this is not the case. Today, the world stands more divided than ever. We cannot let this divide run deeper. I don't think it's going to change anything. I could say, let's get our shit together. Why not? We're not going to be president for much longer. Let's get our shit together and sort out this mess of a divided house once and for all, or be swallowed by discord. Let's see. I'm not going to mention Eastern Marcopa. That will always stand for the rights of the people of Sordland. Or maybe I will. We stand and always will stand for the rights of the people of Sordland and Eastern Marcopa, just as those in other continents. I'm not going to say long live the Alliance of Nations, or UN as I said earlier, fuck them. I don't think it's going to change anything. I could say I'm going to say UN must adopt decisions according to the wishes of the people, but It's not going to. The people of Sordland and I are honored to have expressed our concerns before the noble assembly. Thank you, have a good night. I will end on something I do believe in, though. Peace in Maricopa. Peace in the world. Alvarez stood up and started applauding.
Well spoken!
I heard thunderous applause from half of the assembly. I'm not gonna raise my fist. Thank you. Who didn't like that? It was about as generic as you could be. I left the podium. I walked back to my seat. David did not stop applauding until I said, "You're making me look bad, David. You're making me look bad." This looks insane that my one advisor's like, "Whoa, yeah, whoa." Ugh. You're making me look Bush League. I am Bush League, but whatever. Finally, it's over. Well, it wasn't a bad speech. We still have to hear from the heavyweights before the session. Oh, do we? I don't care. President Nines announced the next speaker, Dwight Walker.
Mr. President, I want to congratulate you on your election to this high office.
Talking to the president of the UN, essentially, not us.
Mr. Secretary, delegates to the Alliance of Nations, ladies and gentlemen, fellow friends, we meet again on our quest to bring peace and light into this world. But even though some of the clouds have lifted, the world has not yet escaped the darkness. The Cantana Security Pact is rapidly expanding its influence. It is very troubling to see the democratic nations of Maricopa be threatened by those malvaneous powers. I refer, of course, to the presence of the Vogslandian and Contanian fleets in the Marquean Sea. They are harassing other nations and hampering international trade. Is it not an attack on world peace? An attack against the free trading nations of the world? Today, our obligations to world peace are being tested by the United Cantana and the Malvanius Bloc. If we fail to counter this threat, if we stay idle and allow them to surround us with their war machines and blockades, if the attackers do not face any consequences, then this unstable peace we believed we had built will be the world's downfall, and posterity will point its finger at us for not stopping it.
Emmerich, Hegel, and the other Vogslandian delegates started making noise again. This time, Hegel had taken off his shoe and was banging the table with it. Some people you just can't take out in public. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to keep watching. Despite the noise Hegel made, President Walker continued his speech without pause. And despite his claims, the CSP's actions will only bring about war. Yet we still believe United Cantana and Arcasia, together with their allies, can come to an understanding for our mutual benefit and our desire to avoid the destruction of the world. We believe that all people of the world must be free to choose their own future. No country, be it Arcasia or United Cantana, has the right to impose its value on others. But I will say this too, the United Cantana. If either of us is to be secure, we need a peaceful cooperation, not defense systems, forced blockades, or shows of naval superiority. If the Alliance of Nations cannot find a resolution to this conflict, Edo remains ready and able to. Hegel stood up with a shoe in his hand.
What's that supposed to mean? You're promoting war in the Alliance of Nations?
Mr. President, this cannot. The Nine slammed the gavel down, shouting, "Silence, please!"
Mr. Chancellor, please let me finish. We did not interrupt you when you addressed this assembly. I must also raise my concerns about the threat that Rumberg poses to Eastern Maricopa. The speakers who preceded me clearly showed that tensions are rising. The reports from Wayland and Sordland are troubling. Arcasia and Ada will stand against the aggression of Rumberg. They are playing a dangerous game, one that may bring Maricopa to their lands.
Oh, might bring ruin to.
One that may bring ruin to Maricopa and their own lands. I believe the Alliance of Nations can find a resolution to this conflict. If not, let it be known that Arcasia will stand together with Sordland. Rumberg cannot do as it pleases.
I don't have anything here to say to David. I gotta ask David if he thinks that's right. No, I already have faith in our allies. I'm just gonna keep listening. Finally, I propose that the Alliance of Nations undertake the noble cause of helping the people of the world through rewriting and properly enforcing its Human Rights Declaration. The Alliance of Nations cannot survive as a static organization. Its size and duties are increasingly enormous. It should adapt to the changing world. But peace and rights do not rest in the hands of this organization alone. They rely on the hearts of our people and the spirit of cooperation between our nations. So let it be known, my fellow inhabitants of this world, let us take our stand and see if we can finally achieve a lasting peace. Thank you. Most of the assembly applauded his speech. 8 delegates in particular. Now we're gonna have to listen to the head of the commies, right? I'm not gonna react. The applause continued for some time. Walker shook hands with various delegates on his way back to his seat. President Nines announced the last speaker before the break. It was Leon Malvain. Malvain, whatever. I call him Malvaney. I forget what I call him. Slowly walked to the rostrum in his iconic suit. All of the CSP delegates stood up and applauded him. Honorable Chairman and fellow delegates to the Alliance of Nations. Here we are again at the most esteemed meeting of the state representatives in the world. However, increasingly, we are being threatened, disregarded, attacked, or ignored in this assembly. Wait, what do you say? The representatives of Arcasia has just shown this unfriendly attitude towards us yet again. Arcasia would have you believe that we are standing in the way of peace, yet the peace they talk about was only possible thanks to our missiles and our growing base in the developing world. The ATO kept waging wars against revolutions of people and forcing new independent states to be their puppets. I like puppets, binding them to themselves through the Arcasian lira. And now, yet another Arcasian president is telling us that we are the aggressors and they are the keepers of peace. We will not be silent against these lies. When was this peace you talk about? Where was this cooperation between our countries? Have you ever accepted our invitation to talk about denuclearization? If you don't like us, don't accept our deals, don't listen to our concerns, and keep pointing fingers at us, why did you invite us to the Alliance of Nations? Every year, United Cantana comes to this assembly to address the real problems of real peoples. People who suffer because of your systems, your wars, and your ignorance. Whether you like it or not, we keep representing the laborers, the slaves. You have slaves? No! The oppressed of this world, and believe it or disregard it, history is on our side. We come to say to the representatives of capitalistic countries, come and visit. Come and see the revolution working in Cantana. Show our continent to your people without distorting reality. If you cannot do that, then you need not come. We believe socialism will triumph over capitalism in the end. Such is the logical conclusion of the development of mankind. This time lesbian delegates started laughing very loudly. Some other delegates booed. I'm not going to join in with the laughing. I'm not going to say ridiculous. I'm just going to keep watching.
You can keep laughing. Gentlemen, communism will bury you.
Suddenly the laughing turned into shouting.
If you really believe in cooperation, we will be waiting. We are not going anywhere. However, if the ATO keeps intervening in our matters, it is natural the CSP would react. Despite threats from ATO or Embark or any other nation or organization, we must not succumb to further division and violence. We must ask ourselves, what do the people of our countries want and expect? They surely don't want a war or bloodshed.
Maybe they want you to be quiet?
So let us leave to our children and grandchildren good memories of our time and a better future for all. Let them look at history and say, once there were great divisions, complex problems, but the leaders of the world came together in the Alliance of Nations and succeeded in settling them in order to ensure our peaceful lives. Let us act in such a way to make this session not a session of threats, but a session of hopes and the realization of them. The government of United Cantana and the United Peoples of Cantana are ready to serve their duties for world peace. Long live the People's Revolution!
I am not going to react to that. The assembly broke into massive applause. The applause continued for some time. Malvaney slowly walked back to his seat as the president announced a break. That was a lot! You fucking telling me? Yeah, let's go get some lunch. Let's blow this popsicle stand. Lead the way. We walked out of the hall to have some lunch and fresh air.